Michael Cooper also exits. A.C. Green fires it. Edwards clears. Last year, the Pistons had a 3-2 lead, but couldn't win one of the last two. Now they'll do it. World champs.
A very gracious moment here as Magic Johnson has come inside the Pistons locker room. Joe Dumars, the MVP, and your longtime friend, Isaiah Thomas.
Well, I was just telling them that they earned it and deserve it. They played well, outstanding. We just couldn't contain them. They've been playing great defense all along. Isaiah said from the beginning, he told me that they had started off to win the best record, and they did that, and it helped them to have the home court advantage, and they're the champs. And he don't have to talk to me about it to find out what it's like now. Now he knows himself.
Hey, Grandpa has passed the torch.
Daddy, I got me one.
From the mid-'80s to the early '90s, it seemed like the Pistons were one of the more premier franchises in the NBA. Headed by the legendary Daily Double Chuck Daly, the team relied on a hard-nosed defensive style of play that led to quick-paced offense. Go back to '89 and find a full array of offensive players who can switch roles and get the job done on any given night, such as Isaiah Thomas, Mark Aguirre, Joe Dumars, or Vinnie Johnson. And for the offensive side of the ball, pushing things forward up the court for easy buckets in transition, look for guys whose defense complemented, such as John Sally, James Edwards, Bill Laimbeer, or Dennis Rodman. Over a decade removed from the Bad Boys era enters the 03-04 Pistons, who defeated the Lakers with 4 future Hall of Famers in Kobe and Shaq, while also adding new additions of Karl Malone and Gary Payton for a 5-game series that led in the Pistons winning the NBA title 100-87. Reminder that this is the first and only time in NBA history that a team has won a final series without a true star. The core of Chauncey Billups, Rip Hamilton, Tayshaun Prince, Rasheed Wallace, and Ben Wallace are the only team in NBA history to win a finals without a single player making it to the first team All-NBA. In this context, you can clearly say that David had beaten Goliath. As Mike Korzema will later put it,
they were a team without a star, and they beat a team full of stars. A true reminder that basketball is just that, a team game.
Today's representation of Motown basketball isn't even close. The only player that has the potential to become an all-star within the next 5 years is Cade Cunningham. Not to be all negative, they may have potentially solidified an all-star talent in guys like Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, and possibly Asar Thompson if he can hold down a consistent jump shot from mid-range and from 3. But it feels like nowadays the Pistons management team has barely put any effort to build talent through the draft and trading them before they can sign an extension on their own rookie contracts. When they acquire any fresh or young talent, it is either seen by the NBA media as incredibly rare or awful. Now, most of us know the infamous 2003 draft, where the Pistons took Darko Milicic at 2 ahead of future Hall of Famers Carmelo Anthony, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. Also did not benefit at all from the 2009 draft, when they could have traded the 15th pick for a potential all-star player that could be marketable for the franchise. Instead, with the 15th pick, they took Austin Daye from Gonzaga. This is 2 picks ahead of future All-Star and NBA champion Drew Holiday, and another 2 picks ahead of future All-Star and podcast host Jeff Teague, along with multiple players that have lasted a decade-long careers such as Danny Green, Patrick Beverley, and Patty Mills. Gladly, after 2009, Detroit has a dozen future first-round picks. But pay attention to the names of these future first-round draft picks from 2010 all the way to 2020, in no particular order, okay? Gray Monroe, okay. Andre Drummond, okay, all right. Brendan Nutt, why? I mean, you could have had, say, half a dozen other players you could have potentially used that pick on.
With the 9th pick in the 2011 NBA Draft, the Charlotte Bobcats select Kemba Walker from the University of Connecticut. With the 11th pick in the 2011 NBA Draft, the Golden State Warriors select Klay Thompson from Washington State University. With the 15th pick in the 2011 NBA Draft, the Indiana Pacers select Kawhi Leonard from San Diego State University. The 30th pick in the 2011 Draft, the Chicago Bulls select Jimmy Butler from Marquette University.
Stanley Johnson. We serious right now? No other prospect out of a loaded draft class when you easily could have had the potential to land Miles Turner or Devin Booker. Oh, we got back Chauncey Billups. We got back Josh Smith. They're past their primes. They're touching 40. What are we doing? Followed by Henry Ellingson, Luke Kennard, Sekio Doumbia, and last but not least, Killian Hayes. Yay!
Set. Shot clock at 5.
The few things I want to call out about these draft picks and the Pistons organization as a whole. Detroit, ever since the 2000s, have failed to get a serviceable veteran talent to surround a very marketable player. Cade Cunningham is seen to be the future of Detroit basketball, and since the front office have managed to trade away young talent the likes of KCP, Spencer Dinwiddie, Chris Middleton, or even a champion in Bruce Brown with new acquired talent through the trades, draft, or free agency not being willing to compensate, those of us who are looking for the actual oriented, balanced, competitive Pistons team are stuck waiting. My even bigger issue, why is coaching so inconsistent within the Pistons management? Seeing that the Spurs had Greg Popovich, who has been a head coach for the same organization since the turn of the millennium, and still stay with the same team 27 years later, you would think that the Pistons would work with a coach for a fraction of that time. However, since 1993, Detroit has 17 head coaches with the recent firing of Monty Williams. Thinking back in retrospective, it would be ideal to keep Stan Van Gundy, who has led them to a playoff berth just 5 years earlier. Additionally, the front office of the Detroit Pistons is already loaded to the max with future first, lottery, and second round draft picks, so there should be no need for them to draft a potential talent or trade for an all-star, whether it's in the draft or free agency. On top of all of that, the 2020 draft had possibly one of the biggest fumbles in recent draft memory, with the 7th overall pick being used to select Killian Hayes, not Halliburton or Maxey. But the most frustrating thing of all is that if any of those two players have been drafted, or hell, even Desmond Bain, then the Cade Cunningham era wouldn't even exist. The purpose of this franchise is to have a strong defense, have a run and gun offense facilitated from that defense, have a secure coaching staff, and fill the roster with actual solid role players. This should not be difficult or confusing. This should be common sense. It can be argued that since the days of Larry Brown that the Pistons have failed to get a marketable, talented star for their own team and have suffered from multiple under 500 seasons and still do. Worse than the Knicks and Hornets, in fact. But the fact that the modern representation of Pistons basketball doesn't even represent a callback is a clear failure of the organization. It can be made very evident that the front office or the higher-ups have clearly fumbled the potential of the Detroit Pistons. After trading away their best star in years, Andre Drummond has significantly altered the franchise's purpose. After a once prestigious franchise have suffered significantly and take such a fall from grace of massive proportions, the Detroit Pistons only have two options, and that is to heavily rebuild into a playoff contending team within the next 5 years, or just relocate the franchise altogether. Detroit basketball is a relevant word yesterday. The Knicks have come out of a slump recently to have their best season in years, and the Spurs have Wemby anyway. But with that all being said, These are obviously my current thoughts on the Detroit Pistons. Let me know what you think in the comments below. As always, it's been Orion, and stay tuned for more.